30 days, Jake. 30 days until Ohio State travels to Ann Arbor to take on Michigan. Seems like there's even more of a buildup to that one now, considering the scandal that surrounds your beloved university.
I was going to say, I'm glad we got the 30-day counter, because it's been a slow week of news, you know, not much going on out in the world, so we can talk about the on-field play, Ohio State versus Michigan.
Yeah, the on-field play. A lot of stuff going on off the field, too. Have some conversations about that, but we wanted you all to know we're fully interactive here on Red Corner, Blue Corner, and we encourage you to send us questions and videos to watchstadium.com/submit, and we have one viewer who did just that.
Is it on? Hello, my name is Sammy Hagar, no relation to the singer. As a completely unbiased Big Ten fan, I have a question about the college football playoff. Someone came out this week saying that it would be better for a Big Ten team to not even make the playoff because they would lose so badly and it would be so embarrassing for the conference. Kind of like Michigan against TCU last year. Do you think there's any accuracy in this question, or do you think they have a chance at a national championship? Okay, thank you. Big fan of the show.
Well, thank you for your question there. I'll start off with the answer. I think that Michigan, cheating or not, is a good enough team to compete in the college football playoff, right? They are very talented. They have leveled up. Their coaching staff has done a really good job. Do we question maybe the game flow if they're not able to rely on some of the information that they've relied on in the past? I think there's a question there, but everybody's played pretty well. You got to go out there and execute, and they've done that. I also look at Ohio State, different formula this year. That defense, I think they could stand up to anybody. I truly do. So leaving a Big Ten team out, that's crazy.
No, better for who? Better for who? Not better for the ratings, not better for the money, not better for the bowl games, not better for the game, because you have two national title teams here in the Big Ten Conference. If Penn State could figure out the offense, they're not out of it, but maybe. I think we know there's separation between Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah, they'll need to do some shopping around for that. But yes, they have two teams in the Big Ten.
All right, Red Corner, Blue Corner, right here on Stadium. Jake Butt, the Michigan Wolverine. All-American guy, Mackey Award winner, team captain, upstanding citizen. Need some more of those in Ann Arbor.
Woo! Joshua Perry, the voice of reason on this show. Ohio State Buckeye, national champion, speaking of national championships, and captain of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Man, this is it's been a very interesting week. I've never seen Jake so fired up. And for people who would not know Jake the way that I do, he's a very level-headed guy. He's a guy who thinks very hard about many things. And to see him emotionally get ramped up has been a treat, honestly, because now we know that he is a real human.
Yeah, this was really good for I had to give Joshua a hug after the show yesterday. I got to be, and we went out to dinner.
We did. We had some cocktails.
Some things, and I'm refocused. I'm ready to go. We got a good show today.
I'm glad you're refocused. Now, we mentioned what we got going on with interactivity. We also got a YouTube chat that is popping, so we'd like to see some people in there. And we also have another fan submission we'd like to get to. And guess what? It's about scouting.
Joshua and Jake, I got a question for you guys for Red Corner, Blue Corner. When you guys were in college, as I'm not a player, who does the scouting for opponents and when you're getting ready for a game week? Also, is that the role of what an analyst does? I kind of thought an analyst was something different, but I'd love for you guys to explain a little more to the viewers on how you get ready for an opponent week in, week out.
Would you like to start on that?
Yeah, so this question leads me into, it's getting my frustration going again, because a good scouting department should account for over 80% of the, a good scouting department limits the needs to get ourselves in this situation. You have teams, Michigan has people that scout Ohio State every single week year round, and vice versa. So your scouting department's going through that. Here's also, man, can you predict the future with a good scouting team? When we would play a team, we would know their exact blitz packages. And we'd say, oh, if the nose guard is to the right of the center, that means he's stunning. They're bringing a will blitz backside. You are able, with a good scouting department, to predict the future, which, again, is part of my frustration, because the benefits of doing some of the things that Michigan's been accused of, it makes no sense. You have enough resources to have a quality scouting department where it shouldn't matter, Joshua.
Man, we got Jake going early again. Yes, and when you look at the way that college football staffs are put together, especially at the premier programs, they're bloated. There are too many people, in my opinion. And they hire them, they volunteer, they intern, they got guys doing anything. You see former head coaches that are a part of these programs, and they cannot coach on field. So their only job is to watch tape and to tell you about tendencies and packages and adjustments, to maybe do some self-scouting as well of, hey, we've gotten a little bit stale or comfortable, right? Like, we have tendencies that people are starting to pick up on. And so you have all of that going. But we would go in on a Monday, and they would have a preliminary game plan, because you have coaches, staffers, that are working on game plans 3 and 4 weeks out for certain programs. Yep. Much like you said, if you're Ohio State, you got your guys working on Michigan and Penn State all year long. But we would go in, and they would have it broken down. They would say, okay, these are the big personnel groupings that they like to use. These are the favorite formations. Then these are the tendencies. On 1st and 10, you see this. On 2nd and 4 to 7, you're going to see this. On 3rd downs, we're going to see this. The type of team that they become. Hey, they're different on 1st and 10 when they're in the middle of a drive than they are on P and 10 when they're just getting the ball on a change of possession. Like, all of those different things are pieces of information that you hand over to your roster, and hopefully they're able to digest that. So the idea of the amount of information that's being tossed around, there are so many people working on every little aspect of the game. That scouting, I mean, is super in-depth.
Yeah, man, I like that you brought up the point of self-scout, because you don't even realize the tendencies you have that other teams are scouting. A team might have a blitz package. There's certain elements that will give away their specific blitz package. Coverages, where's the safety at pre-snap? That'll tell you. So, again, a good scouting department should account for both of this.
Real quick, and to that point, too, it's not just like the frequency of what you do or what kind of blitz you run. It's if you're a cover 4 team like I was in college, and we were a hot blitz team, it would be, how are we going to disguise it? Because we're not going to change what we do, right? And that's even as important as actually giving the change up on the looks. Like, they could still know that we're running 70% cover 4, but if they don't know based off of what the actual look is, they might think we're changing up week to week.
A good team should have the same shell and do multiple things out of it. It's the same personnel, same formation, and you have no tell on what you're going to do unless someone has your signs. That's neither here nor there. A team that needs to be scouted this week is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Wisconsin is going to need some help. Of course, that's our game of the week. Ohio State traveling to Madison to take on the Badgers. The running game, Joshua, for both teams will be front and center. And before we break down this matchup, make sure you guys scan the QR code to vote on today's poll. Who will win this matchup? All right, let's stay right there, because TreVeyon Henderson is expected to play. Of course, they'll get Ibuka back as well. But I think when we think about the running game here, how can Henderson's return kind of impact what's been about an average rushing attack throughout the year?
Yeah, I think it's big. And Ryan Day said on his radio show today that TreVeyon Henderson has practiced all week. It's been a good week of practice, and they're excited to get him back. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think it was when Ohio State played Maryland, under 2 yards per carry in that game. And the thing that I said to you is that I think a guy like TreVeyon Henderson changes the math a little bit, because he can hit some of the holes that those other guys can't. He is a dynamic athlete. He's different. You can see it. You can feel it when he has the ball in his hands, that he's just not a regular running back. And so in college football, a lot of times people are expecting the hole to be like this, and you get to run through it. And many times it's like this. It opens and closes that quickly. When you have a running back who can run the correct tracks and he has the burst to get through there, it changes the way you're able to run the football. I would also go as far as to say, the more I watch that tape, the more I think it's not on the offensive line as much as people think it is. I do think it's on the running backs and how they run their tracks and how explosive or lack of explosion some of the backs have in that group. And I don't think the skill players get involved enough in blocking. The wide receivers and the tight ends, when they're split out, aren't great.
So here's just to try to paint this picture. If you're running zone to the left, you're going to have a double team up to a linebacker. And Le'Veon Bell did this so well. If a hole's there, you can't just hit it now. If you hit it too soon, your double team can't get up to the backer. So good backs will push the hole with patience to allow the double team to get movement and then get up on the backer, and then the back can hit it. So you're exactly right. It's not always on the back. I do think this is interesting, because we talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. and what Ryan Day did to scheme advantages. The next step there is for the run game. And to pivot here, Joshua, because I think you and I have been critical at times of Braylon Allen.
Yes, we have.
He has shown a high ceiling. We
Yes,
can't deny that. But there's been lapses where he's kind of disappeared. if Wisconsin is to pull off the upset, as we see the poll is starting to say yes, they can, how critical is he as a presence for the Badgers to pull this off?
He's got to be the guy, right? They got Braden Locke in there as a backup quarterback with Tanner Mordecai out with injury. I think Locke has shown some things certainly from that position. I like his poise. I like his, his decisive nature and the way that he spins the rock. But they're a team, even with an air raid concept, that wants to run the football downhill. There was a time where I thought that Allen could be the best running back in the Big Ten, right? Like that's the potential that he has, right? He has not shown it because I think there are times where as a big back, a guy who's like 6'2", 225, 230, he doesn't always run like a big back. Yeah. He doesn't finish plays all the time like a big back. And I think his one mentality this week, finish every play.
You've brought up some great things with Braylon Allen, and it has felt at times that he's needed some external circumstance to get himself fully in the game, to start to run angry, run pissed off. The challenge for Braylon Allen, the dude has physically no limits. He's talented. Again, his ceiling's there. He needs to get that fire going by himself organically pre-game. It's an unbelievable opportunity this weekend for him. If they want to pull off the upset, he's got to have a career day. So now it's time to kind of speculate a little bit here. Let's say Wisconsin loses, okay? Ohio State's the favorite. Let's say they lose. Then the race for the West Division crown becomes a pile of muck. Yep, that's to be expected. All right, but here's the speculation. Who would win in this game? The West Division All-Stars or the eventual East champion? Who do you got?
All right, so East champion, I think most of us are looking at Ohio State or Michigan.
Correct.
With Penn State taking the loss, so not out of it, but we feel like that's kind of
those two
separated. Okay, so what does a West All-Stars team look like? If we could pull up the graphic here, we put up a couple of guys. Start with the offense here. So at quarterback, you got a Hudson Card potentially. We talked about Braylon Allen. Devin Maccabee would be the other running back there. Isaiah Williams, Deion Burks. Go through it. You got Nebraska's offensive line, Cooper DeJean. That's a pretty good team, right? Like, I think that's a solid team. Hudson Card, how do we really feel about him, right? Devin Maccabee's put the ball on the ground a couple times. The wide receivers, good, not great. Where are we at?
I would take JJ over Hudson, and I think I'd even take McCord with his play. I'd take him. I'd take the running backs total room over those two guys. O-line, Ohio State, maybe not as much as Michigan, but like the receivers at Ohio State make up for it. The defense is an interesting thing, but I think that'd be more of a fun debate. I'd still think I would take either Ohio State's or Michigan's offense over that all-star as you see the defense here, Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, two of the guys that I really like on this defense are, Kadrian Jenkins and Nick Scorton. I think both of those players are really good. Also love some Tyler Nubin. That guy is a ridiculous player, really smart dude, great guy, great leader. Again, I'm looking at what Ohio State has done defensively this year. It's one of the top units in the country. That is not disputable. I think that their pass rush is coming along. Their interior is really good. Played well at linebacker and the secondary all year. And then Michigan, right, they call it the no-star defense because it doesn't have to be just one guy. They're rolling dudes, and they have been the best unit in the country. Like, I can't take the West All-Stars on defense.
No, I have a football crush too, as we're saying who we like there. Nash Hutmaker, the interior guy for Nebraska. That dude can move. But again, totality. What Michigan and Ohio State are both doing, those are two of the best defenses in the country. Again, they get to choose their play caller as well. It's hard to bet against the East, right? Either of those two teams, I think, can take it.
I think the other part about this question, too, is we're taking the West players as finished products versus the Ohio State and Michigan players and how they have been developed within either one of those programs. Like, credit to the coaching staffs for developing some of those position groups.
What an interesting debate, though.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break right here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. But coming up, it's time to pick some winners. Jake Butt's been struggling. And we might have to call this segment
Not this week.
Jake. All right, we got T-Bob Hebert. He's going to be joining us. He's one of the hosts of Rivals Down South. He's waiting in the wings to make picks. That's in just a few. And remember to stick around for Rivals Down South at the bottom of the hour. The guys will get you ready for that rivalry game in Jacksonville. It's all right here on Stadium.
All right, welcome back. We got a fun one for you. I know you'll like this one, Joshua. So in a social media post last night, Iowa quarterback Cade McNamara said he plans on coming back for the 2024 season. He's been out since September 30th with a torn ACL. Another separate conversation here is about how these guys are in college for nearly a decade this time around. But Joshua, I know you love Iowa offense. What does Cade's return mean for the Hawkeyes?
Well, first off, hope for a great recovery for that young man. Not a lot. They still would have been bad, even if he was healthy. I'm done.
It's not really on him, and exactly right. It's enough time, he should be healthy for camp and good to go, but again.
I know.
It doesn't matter, really, man. It really doesn't matter. The offense hasn't necessarily looked better or worse. They need a couple guys to get healthy, and I think they need some creative schemes.
I mean, Cade certainly would be an upgrade to what they're playing right now, but it's just not enough around him.
Yeah, that's kind of the point where this is it's a systematic thing, really. You know, to kind of put it lightly, it's a systematic thing. It can move a few percentage points. Can't wait to see Cade back out there, but there's other things that need to change.
All right, so you know what I want to talk a little bit more about?
Sure.
Michigan.
Of course.
Sign stealing, that situation that's going on. And unlike the rest of us who just want to see Ann Arbor burn, Nebraska's Matt Rule actually wants to find solutions to sign stealing.
You should have mics in the helmets, right? Like all these coaches that vote against it every year is because they don't want to teach their quarterback. You know, in the NFL, each quarterback goes out there with 3 play calls because if I see the free safety's foot like that, it might be one high. I'm going to check to this play, but you get to college and you're watching a game on a Tuesday night, and you know they got the signal and they're just calling a play. So that's what makes college football, to me. That's why they score maybe more points, but it's also why the kids are less prepared. So that's why there should be 100% should be. We could get rid of all the stupid signs on the sidelines, and we could get pictures of, you know, rock stars and all that stuff. And we could just play football the way it was meant to be. You go to a high school game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to an NFL game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to the college, there's nothing.
I'm here with Matt Rule on this. I think one of the things that bothers me, and specifically when it comes to trying to evaluate quarterbacks as they get ready to go to the NFL, is the teams that do the scans or the look with me on the sideline. And the coordinator tries to get them the perfect play. Like, put the system in there, let the quarterback check into it. I also think that there are some coaching staffs that feel like they cannot call a game unless they can know what the defense is getting ready to do. And I think that's why they prefer it to be this way. They want to do the check with me because they know otherwise they might just put out some bad calls.
It goes back to how we opened the show with your scouting department. Like, you have to have a good scouting department so you're prepared, so you get the right calls. Look, going forward, seriously, the changes need to be made to avoid this. We should never have been in this situation to begin with. And a solution is that simple about getting mics in the helmet. There'll be a little bit of a change, but guys are capable. I believe that these college players are capable of doing this, Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, just the coaches, I think, got to get them right.
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to.
It's a team effort, as it always is, and it is a team effort as we make some picks here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. A light slate this week for the Big Ten. But as always, I mentioned team effort. Our guy, Brad Evans of Live on the Line, has a wager for us. Brad, what do you got for us?
Hola, amigos. Brad Evans here from Live on the Line. I'm a Big Ten bet of the week. I'm going with the Nebraska Cornhuskers at home, -2.5 against Purdue. You got two schools going in opposite directions right now. Nebraska's won 4 of its last 5 games. Purdue, meanwhile, has dropped 4 of its last 5, including 2 of its last 3, away from West Lafayette. The key in this game is going to be Heinrich Haarberg, not as a passer, but as a runner. He could flirt with a century mark on the ground, knowing that Purdue is number 97 in the country in defensive success rate against the run. On top of that, Nebraska is number 36 nationally in EPA per play defense. So do the simple math, carry the one, and there's one solution and one solution only. Nebraska lay the chalk. They're going to slam the door, score the cover, and a party ensues in Lincoln. Now go out there and make that money. Team Huevos.
I don't even think Brad drinks coffee, which is crazy, but thanks to him. And remember that you can catch Live on the Line, rest of the crew alongside Brad at noon Eastern every weekday right here on Stadium. And we're going to be joined by another one of our friends right here from the Stadium universe, and that is T-Bob Hebert from Rivals Down South. Maybe call him T-Cobb today because he's picking some Big Ten games, one involving Nebraska. We're excited to have you here with us, but let's get right on to it. Game of the week. It's number 3 Ohio State hitting the road. They're taking on Wisconsin. T-Bob, what you got?
Look, the dairy raid has been a complete failure here, number one, year one. I know the record looks a bit nice, but I'm not a believer in this Wisconsin team. It turns out when you run around the air raid with a bunch of slow white guys, it's not exactly the most effective. I think the Buckeyes roll up in there like Colonel Hans Landa and drink all the Badgers' milk come Saturday.
You said it, not me.
Seems to me really Ohio State gets better and better every single week. I mean, McCord gets more comfortable. They get more creative. They are healthy this week. Tough matchup for Wisconsin. This is an easy one for me, Josh. I'm picking the Buckeyes.
Yeah, Buckeyes for me. Luke Fickell, former defensive coordinator, former player at Ohio State, will have his team fired up, but Ohio State's going to win it. Second game, we got a rivalry in the SEC. Number 21 Tennessee taking on Kentucky. Who we rolling with?
A battle as old as time, boys. Old Tennessee whiskey versus Kentucky bourbon. However, I think this is clear. Look, outside of Jimbo Fisher, I think Mark Poops is the most overpaid coach in America. And for further evidence or further reason why you should be rolling with Tennessee on the road here, I've never heard T-Pain sing a song about Kentucky bourbon, but have you heard the T-Pain remix of Tennessee whiskey? It's fantastic. It's actually a shot across the bow of all the T-Pain haters who only accuse him of being a simple little auto-tune boy. Everybody should go check it out. It's fantastic. Tennessee rolls.
Kentucky's got to clean some things up, but I have the stat to tell you what you need to hear. Kentucky's run defense in particular has been excellent this year, giving about 3 yards per carry on the season. Tennessee, 0-2 when they are averaging less than 4 yards per carry. 5-0 when they're above 5 yards per carry. The run defense forces Tennessee into a place they're not comfortable. I'm picking the Kentucky Wildcats.
That's where I was going with it. I think that's why Kentucky wins this one. We'll get one more of these picks in. Top 15 matchup featuring a future Big Ten school. We got number 8 Oregon. They're taking on number 13 Utah. Who we picking?
I mean, look, if Kyle Whittingham wins this game, make him coach of the year. The Oregon offense should absolutely be the difference in this game. Give me the Ducks.
Yeah, I'm taking Oregon in this one as well. I don't think Utah can move the football.
Yep, taking the Ducks as well.
All right. Well, T-Bob, we appreciate you. Have some fun on the other side, but that'll do it for us on Red Corner, Blue Corner. Take care.
what's going on, Stadium? Hope you're having an excellent Thursday. I'm T-Bob Bear. He's SEC Mike, and this is Rivals Down South. And it's going to be an interesting weekend in the SEC once again. We got some headline matchups to talk about, some major players out. I want to talk a little Biletnikoff as well, but let's start with the biggest game of the weekend, arguably, and that is Georgia, Florida. Now, be careful, folks. You have to say Georgia, Florida, apparently, because the winner of the previous game gets their name on the title card first. So Georgia, Florida, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, going down in Jacksonville this weekend. And I think Georgia safety Javon Bullard said it best when he said, quote, "This is old-fashioned hate. Georgia, Florida is one of the biggest rivalries ever. If this game doesn't get you amped up to play football, I don't know what will. It is special." Mike, this is one of those great rivalries. We see it in Triple R, the Red River rivalry, and maybe some others that I'm missing off the top of my head. Oh, Army, Navy, probably a bit, where it's a neutral site and the crowd will truly be 50-50. It's just something you don't see that often in college football. It's awesome, but most importantly, this is the first game that the Georgia Bulldogs will play without Brock Bowers, Mike. How do you think they'll fare?
Yeah, and to your point of this being a great rivalry, T-Bob, this is one of the few in the country where they cannot even agree to how many times they've met. Georgia's got them with 55 wins over Florida. Florida says Georgia's only got 54 wins. So Georgia's got the edge, but by how measured, no one truly knows. But, yeah, I mean, everyone's looking at Brock Bowers, T-Bob, but it seems like Kirby gets his boys up for these matchups. Tennessee, when they had to face them, number one, obviously the playoff and SEC championships, but Florida's never beaten an AP number one poll when they're unranked. It ain't going to happen. I hate to skip ahead a little bit here, but Georgia's got the top third down defense in the country. Florida has got the number 109 third down offense in the country. I think this is a total mismatch. People are getting lulled to sleep just because Brock Bowers is not going to be playing.
No, look, I think this is one of those situations where, again, it's a classic NPC game. And what I mean by that is it's like you're playing a video game, right? You have your player character, the character that you control, and then you have the NPCs. That's everybody around you, right? And you don't really care about the NPCs. You only care about them as they relate to you. That's how I view this game for Georgia. I just want to see, what does this Georgia offense look like without Brock Bowers? I know they're going to win, right? But what does it look like? Because there's a lot of very smart college football minds that I trust, Mike, like whether it's Aaron Murray, a gambling expert I love talking to every week, Colin Wilson, Josh Pate of Late Kick. They keep telling me Georgia is going to be more explosive post-Bowers injury. So everybody keeps telling Mike Bobo's suddenly going to start chucking it downfield. Drozdov's going to be awesome. But I'm like, okay, but then who's going to step up? Because the transfers, Dominic Lovett and Rod Thomas, they haven't done anything this year. Neither's hit 80 yards. They both have one touchdown on the season. And then you arrive at, okay, I guess it has to be Ladd McConkey, the junior receiver who was excellent last season, was thought to be maybe the guy right behind Bowers coming in. He was injured for a lot of the year. He's getting healthier. Like, I just don't know if I see that explosivity, but if it's going to come from anywhere, I think it comes from Ladd. Then you get to the question, because once again, this is all kind of viewed through the Bulldog lens. Is this Florida team a good test for Carson Beck? And this is where people need to be careful. Because if you look up the Florida defense on paper, you would say yes. They're fifth in scoring defense in the SEC, fifth in total defense, third in pass defense. Like, okay, but who have they played? Utah, McNeese State, Tennessee, Charlotte, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, South Carolina. Like, South Carolina is the only offense that even has a pulse, and they put up 39 against the Gators. So I'm calling it now, Mike. Georgia's going to roll. They're going to play very well, and Bulldog fans are going to expect us to all lay prostrate at their kingly feet as they once again tell us they're back, just like when they beat fearsome Kentucky. But I ain't buying that crap, Bulldogs, okay? I still think you're a SEC championship team. I do not think you are a national championship team.
Right, and I think you hit the nail on the head with all these people saying Georgia's going to be more explosive. I think they will be, but I think it's a facade. I think it's because Florida is not of their caliber. We'll see that the following weeks they play Missouri, they play Ole Miss, they go to Tennessee. this is the toughest 4-game stretch Georgia's going to get the entire season. It's going to start with a bang. I predict it's going to end in a dud there in Neyland Stadium. So, let's give Georgia all the hype this weekend, but it's not going to last very long, I don't think.
If Florida did somehow pull off the upset, who wins the East?
Georgia.
Yeah, okay. I'm making sure.
They would need Georgia to lose again.
Notes before the show, and I have the same thing written down. Like I would love to pick somebody else, but it's not. Like it's not going to be anybody else. It will still be Georgia at the end of the day. Something else that I've kind of been pondering a bit, Mike, is you look around the country right now, and award lists are starting to take shape. Right, one of them, the Blitnikoff. 12 SEC players made the Blitnikoff Award watch list, and obviously that's going to be headlined by Luther Burden III and Malik Neighbors out of Mizzou and LSU. They're 1-2 in the nation in receiving yards, 9 touchdowns for Neighbors. In fact, and this is where it gets weird, right? Because Maserati Marvin Harrison Jr., he's kind of considered to be the runaway favorite right now if you look at gambling sites. And it does beg the question, why is that, right? When you have Malik Neighbors averaging a catch more per game, 13 yards per game, and 9 touchdowns to 6. You even have Brian Thomas, who's basically equivalent with him, only with 11 touchdowns to 6. Luther Burden has better numbers as well. Why is Marvin Harrison Jr. considered the favorite to win the Blitnikoff?
Well, hey, we have to give him credit because when he faces Michigan, they'll know the signals, they'll know what he's doing, and they still won't be able to stop him. So maybe that's part of it. But, Ohio State and all this tradition of receivers, they always get all this hype. But I've given it to my man Luther Burden. I think without you take him off, I think Missouri is a 500 team instead of sitting here at 7-1 and thinking they can beat Georgia in Athens without Luther Burden. None of this is possible. So I get all the hype with some of these other receivers, but and you mentioned Malik Neighbors. He's got Brian Thomas. He's got an elite quarterback with him. I like Luther Burden. I think he's more impressive than any of them up to this point.
So I think you hit the nail on the head. My 2 theories about how Marvin Harrison ends up being the favorite here were that, first off, we've seen Marvin Harrison on the biggest of stages, right? We saw the Notre Dame game, and then really in that Penn State game, he was like so clearly the difference. Like the fact that Ohio State had him and Penn State did not was literally the entire difference in that epic clash that we witnessed a week ago. Whereas when we saw Malik and Brian Thomas on the biggest stage against LSU fell flat on their face. They got dominated. I also think paradoxically, having Brian Thomas hurts Neighbors, but that's where I arrived exactly where you did. That's why Luther Burden should actually be the favorite here. You have a Mizzou team that is experiencing success that they haven't had in well over a decade. And as you said, Mike, none of it happens without Luther Burden. This was a huge recruit out of high school who chose to stay home. He does not have the supporting cast of an Ohio State, not even close. And yet here Mizzou sits at 7-1. And there is not, even after watching Ohio State, Penn State, there is not a more important receiver to their team than Luther Burden III and what he means to the Missouri Tigers.
And you must have tweeted this out because this poll is skewed. This is cheap right here. Should not be Malik Neighbors. Get the heck out of here with that.
Look. Look. He does lead in everything statistically, basically. I get it. I get it. The problem is when Jamar Chase won it for LSU, the fabled 19 offense, the thing was he became a statistical outlier, right? And if you're going to win on one of these offenses where it feels like everybody's overwhelming you, you have to be that statistical outlier. And you got to win big games. What would you say, Mike, if LSU goes in, beats Alabama in T-Town, and we're on the other side saying, oh, well, Malik Neighbors was the reason why. All of a sudden, then, that award gets much more interesting. That's the main reason why Marvin Harrison is winning this, is because he won the Penn State game and he won the Notre Dame game to a lesser extent, but Ohio State remaining unblemished. But I love that. That's democracy. I guess you don't believe in it. To me, I think that's kind of what this country was founded on. And I think that we got very smart voters here.
Luther will have those opportunities coming up with Georgia, with Tennessee, with Florida. If he dominates those, I think we could say the same thing about him.
All right, look, you know what time it is? It's time to make some picks. Coming up next, here on Rivals Down South. We'll go through the entire SEC slate. I remain a game behind AJ and Mike. Will this be the week when I make it up? Check it out next on Rivals Down South. Yo, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Rivals Down South here on Stadium. YouTube.com/watch Stadium. You can always get involved in hanging out with us there every day. As you can see, last week, another 4-1 week for the boys. The only place in which we all went awry, Arkansas. Because again, who in the world could have seen 3 points at home against the Mississippi State defense that ranked in the hundreds in stop rate? It's very easy to see why Danny Enos no longer has a job. And as you can see at the bottom there, I remain 1 game behind AJ McCarron and SC Mike. I'm 18-6 there, 19-5. I have to find, God, the problem with this week, Mike, I'm going to be interested what you think. I think this is all pretty cut and dry when you look at these picks. Maybe I'll find a little wiggle room, though, to sneak back in here. Let's start with the team and the place that you hail from. That would be your Tennessee Volunteers going on the road to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Ooh, a little nighttime in Lexington. You know, I was told that Kentucky plays really good at home at night, and then I watch a Mizzou team go kick their ass without Luther Burden playing all that well. I don't know. I like Tennessee here, and I think this is easy.
Yeah, it feels too easy to me. That's why I'm going Kentucky, because we're going to get to it here in a minute. But I think the season's on the line, epically important for both these teams. But Kentucky at home, you said it there, at night, must win, coming off back-to-back embarrassing losses. We have got to get away to get Devin Leary going. One guy that not enough people are talking about, Deion Walker. He's my favorite for SEC Defensive Player of the Year there in the middle of Kentucky's defense. If he can create havoc on that Tennessee offensive line, I think that's the key to stopping them, because I still don't have faith in Joe Milton to win on the road. If Tennessee runs wild on Kentucky, they'll win. I just don't think it happens in large part to Deion Walker.
No, folks. You can hear it in Mike's voice. That is the voice of a recently spurned lover. That is a voice of a man who had to watch his team go up against the Tide last week and give him that tease of a touchdown right before half to make him finally think, oh my God, they're going to do it, only before Alabama did what they do in the second half every year this year. And they come storming back and they win. I actually exit the Alabama game more bullish on Tennessee. They found ways to have success. They controlled the line of scrimmage for the most part. And there's no shame in having the most talent-laden team in the entire country beat you. It kind of is what it is. I don't care about Kentucky's defensive ranks, rush defense, creating havoc, because nobody's better at stopping havoc than that Tennessee offensive line. I believe in the Tennessee run attack. I believe in Tennessee on both lines of scrimmage. I think the Vols get it done, and I don't believe in Mark Stoops. Mike, what does he have? 3 wins? 2 wins against teams that finished with above 500 records in the SEC in his entire tenure at Kentucky? Like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when it comes to how everybody talks about Mark Stoops.
Stoops also has a losing record coming off a bye. And the last season coming off a bye, guess who? He faced Tennessee, lost 44-6. So you might have something there. But
he makes $8 million a year, Mike. And everybody's like, yeah, he beat Florida. He didn't beat Urban Meyer, Florida. He didn't beat Steve Spurrier, Florida. He didn't even beat Ron Zook, Florida. Get the hell out of here, dude.
The last 2 years, when these two teams have met, Heupel has engineered big explosive plays right out the gate, jumped on Kentucky. Tennessee's just not built that way. If they can score some explosive plays early, they will win this game. Again, I just don't have faith in Joe Milton to engineer that on the road.
Ooh, I love it. So there's my open door, folks. That's how I'm going to get back in. Tennessee, Mike goes with Kentucky. Next up, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, Georgia, Florida. We already said it. Georgia. It's the dogs, and it's not close. This is the beginning of the Gator Death March.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they may not win another game, and that includes Arkansas, who's going to have 2 weeks to prepare, kick Dan Enos out the door. We're hailing Billy Napier. I think we're going to be trashing them this time next week.
Yeah, Georgia's just going to overwhelm them. Again, the question is, who's going to show up for that Georgia offense? And quarterbacks are interesting, man. A great weapon to a quarterback. Like my 3-year-old has a blankie. She loves it. She's obsessed. If I don't have it when she's going to sleep, it's a whole to-do. She's freaking out. I got to go. I have search everywhere, the car, the house, everything. Otherwise, bedtime is not happening. What happens when you take away that blanket? She throws a tantrum. How will Carson Beck fare now that his blankie's been taken away in the form of Brock Bowers? Only time will tell. Next on this list, the Gamecocks traveling to College Station to take on Texas A&M. And I think the only more overpaid coach than Mark Stoops is Jimbo Fisher, but I'm still rolling with the Aggies here. That front seven's awesome. They create a ton of havoc, and South Carolina's offensive line remains one of the most putrid groups of 5 that you will ever see on the CFB level.
Yeah, my most interesting thing for this matchup, T-Bob, I want to see who the losing coach blames after this one, because it ain't going to be on Jimbo. It ain't going to be on Shane Beamer, but I think you're right. Playing at home, South Carolina cannot protect Spencer Rattler, and it's a damn shame because Spencer Rattler is actually playing some pretty outstanding football. He's getting no help. Yeah. He's getting killed, and that's the one thing A&M can do is get after the passer. They have an elite defensive line. That's going to be the difference. I like A&M, and I like A&M big to cover the 2-touchdown spread.
Can we let's just play a little hypothetical here. What happens if Jimbo Fisher loses?
His ass is gone. He should have been fired
immediately.
already.
Do you think though, like real talk, the $75 million that it would take to get him out of there, if he loses at home to a hapless Cock team this weekend, is Jimbo Fisher out on a rail come Monday?
Bobby Petrino, hand him your neck brace. We'll just pretend Jimbo is too hurt to coach the rest of the season. Give the thing to Bobby Petrino. Let him ride it, hopefully out of this ditch that we're careening into. So, yeah, I would love to see Bobby Petrino interim head coach.
Wow. What a weird narrative that life weaves sometimes. Next on this list, bad on bad, Mississippi State, Auburn. Now, State, of course, somehow getting their first SEC win last week. Auburn, winless still. Hugh Freeze searching for that first. It's in Jordan Hare. I got to imagine that Auburn gets this done. I'm not a believer in anything that Zach Arnett's done. In fact, I'm pretty much a believer that Zach Arnett is going to be one and done there at Mississippi State. And so I think the Auburn home fans will not be booing this Saturday.
Well, speaking of one and done, I'm not ready to quite go that far with Hugh Freeze, but if they drop this, I think that talk may start, and we may be getting Chad Morris 2.0. Hugh Freeze is wildly overrated. He had a losing record in SEC play before getting this Auburn job. He's not won a damn league game yet. I don't know if he's a big time coach. So I'm throwing the dice here. Give me Mississippi State in an upset.
Whoa! Oh, open that door, Mike. Let's go. Wait, Mike. Hold up now. Because that's a pretty spicy take. Like, that's a take that you clip and put online. You think you don't think I'm like a firm believer that Hugh Freeze is a perfect fit at Auburn, and that this thing is going to pay dividends over time. You're not just fading him this year. You're saying he will never get it going on the Plains.
Not with playing Bama and Georgia every year as his permanent rivals. Or, we'll see if that continues in the new SEC. But no, I mean, he's completely overrated. He beat Alabama twice. That's what everybody knows. What they don't mention, he's lost to Vanderbilt twice. He is not an elite coach.
And then finally we arrive at Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and God, man, Vandy was fun last year, but it's still Vandy. Ole Miss wins this game. It's in Oxford. They're playing great football right now. Like, this is not going to be where Ole Miss trips up, unless they're maybe looking ahead to Georgia, but I just don't see how that's possible against a hapless Vandy team.
Right. I just want to see how many quarterbacks Ole Miss plays in this one, essentially. I mean, blowout city. I don't know. I think the spread is around 25 and a half. I don't think they cover, but they could if they wanted to. Give me Ole Miss by around 24 points.
All right, it's time for one final break. Hugh Freeze in charge of his first SC win. Jimbo Fisher trying to keep his job. Coming up more, let's look at who needs a win the most in the SEC come Saturday. What up, y'all? Welcome back to Rivals Down South. Who needs it more? We gave you picks last segment, but who do these games mean more to? Tennessee, Kentucky? I got Tennessee. And Mike, I think Tennessee needs this win more than anybody else on this list. Jimbo's already done all these, like, Tennessee is trying to prove that they're a consistent 10-win team, that they're bumping up against that, second in the SEC East every single year in year, a consistent power. I think they can get there again in the NIL era, but these are the type of games they have to win. I think Tennessee needs this more.
I hear you, and that makes perfect sense. But I think it's Kentucky because Tennessee, if you beat Mizzou, if you beat Georgia, it's still a heck of a year. Anybody beat Georgia, it's a heck of a year. And I think they can do that in Neyland Stadium. Meanwhile, Kentucky, I'm telling you this, T-Bob, if they lose this one, they're going to go on a downward spiral. And things I'm hearing, I don't know if Mark Stoops is going to be back because he's done with Kentucky and the leadership and the basketball. His NIL comments were put out there for a reason. Kentucky, I think, has to get this game on Saturday.
Man, I wish I could be bad at my job and then blame everybody else around me. South Carolina at Texas A&M. South Carolina would benefit way more. Again, A&M's in purgatory. Jimbo's already done. Like, Beamer needs to give his fans some hope here.
That's true, but I think Jimbo, by beating a team he's a 2-touchdown favorite on, he'll get those fans warped again, saying maybe we can go 9-3. We can beat Ole Miss. We can beat LSU, only to finish 7-5 and destroy all their hopes and dreams.
I mean, that is true. The Aggies do have that cult-like belief in the power of A&M, so I guess you're not wrong there. And then finally, we arrive at the Battle of the Bad, Mississippi State and Auburn. And State coming off an SEC win last week. Auburn still winless. I think this is clearly Hugh Freeze. It was an awesome offseason where all the Auburn fans fell in love, set a record for season ticket sales, had the good showing against Georgia. And then last week, what happens? He's getting booed in Jordan-Hare. Okay, you cannot drop. You are better than Mississippi State. Talent-wise, everything, full stop. You cannot lose to this team.
Right. I think I convinced you. I mean, if he loses this one, it's just going to get louder and louder. And I think he's not long for the Plains. Meanwhile, Zach Arnett, he's probably a dead man walking already, win or lose. So I think it's irrelevant for him.
That'll do it. Here on Rivals Down South, huge stake in a SEC. Mike, those are the picks. I think I'm going to have a lead next week here. Perfect week coming up. I'm calling it now. We'll see you for more Rivals here on Watch Stadium.